Hello, and welcome to The Worst Things. Today's story is This Is How the Gorillas Went Apeshit, written by P.F. McGrail and read by Arthur Cresswell. Drool and puke spilled from my mouth as the man removed the ball gag. The fluid mixed with the slick cocktail of tears and sweat that covered my face. He smiled. "You, my friend, are the best $50 I ever spent." I coughed, gasped, and sniffed. "Why?" I asked meekly as I stared around the dark room. He snorted. "Why not?" Here the man squatted down so that he was eye level with me. His breath smelled of cheese and rot. "Listen," he continued in a low, rumbly voice that would have been seductive if I were the type of person who got hard upon hearing Pennywise the Clown. "I got no beef with you. All I know is that 2 days ago, some guy tells me the Delaware State Zoo has a torture room for $50. I get to mutilate a stranger into tiny little pieces. They clean up the mess." He leaned over and licked the tear off my cheek. His tongue felt like soil and sadness. I shuddered. "No," I whispered. "Why did you let yourself become this way?" I pulled against the handcuffs that kept my arms wrapped around the metal pipe, but they didn't budge. His eyes darkened. "You really want to know about me, little man?" "I recognize you," I went on, quieter still. "I already know who you are. They arrested you for killing little Annie Tibbets, but there wasn't enough evidence." The resulting silence had a nearly tangible weight. "You're never leaving this room," he finally responded, "so it doesn't matter." He plucked a rusty spoon from the ground and examined it. "I want you to know the type of man I am. I want you to be afraid." He looked up and made intense eye contact. I looked back at him but saw nothing behind his eyes. "2 things," he went on. "First, they have no idea what I did to that girl before she died." He smiled and the stench of his breath wafted over me like a mist. "It was far more than they possibly suspected. And secondly," here he caressed my neck with long and dirty fingernails, "I can do things with this spoon that will make you beg for death days before it's over. Welcome," he grumbled deeply, "to my rodeo." "That's all I needed to hear," I responded in the lightest voice possible. I flicked the false link from the handcuffs, freeing my wrist. He was frozen in utter confusion as I whipped my wrist around the pipe and brought the edge of the metal cuff down on his temple. He was unconscious before he hit the ground. I stood, spit the excess drool onto his face, then wiped my lip. "You should know that this," I heaved in exhausted satisfaction, "is not my first rodeo either." The customer looked up at me in surprise. "Rats?" "Yes, Mr. Bennington, our newest addition. One course consists of mini rats, as they are so much smaller than our usual fare, but it has proven to be a very popular choice amongst our clientele seeking a more exotic experience." He chuckled. "Different strokes, I guess. I'll be skipping the rats tonight." He put the menu down and smiled broadly. "Did you know that gorillas can learn human sign language? We're first cousins just a few million years removed." I just can't get the thought out of my head. Definitely gorilla for me tonight." "Excellent, Mr. Bennington. And the back menu?" I knew what he would say before he even said it. "The last entry on the list." "Ah, yes. That is a special acquisition that came in just this afternoon. I can tell you more about the particular details, but please note that specialty items are market price." He lifted a backpack from the ground. "I've seen it, and I must have it. Take what you need from here." I accepted the pack without a word. "Now what can you tell me about the particulars of my order?" he continued. "Very good, sir," I responded. A 30-year-old man was tasked with babysitting a 6-year-old girl. They disappeared on January 19. 3 months passed before her body was found in a horrifying state of— "Stop!" he yelled. "Just stop." He looked ill, and I smiled inwardly. "I don't want to know anymore. Let it begin." Drool and puke spilled from his mouth as I removed the ball gag. "Up and at 'em, champ," I explained cheerfully. He looked up at me in foggy confusion, then stared down at himself. Why am I naked?" he asked dully. "It's almost showtime," I responded enthusiastically as I adjusted my bow tie in the mirror. "You're going to be the star attraction." He farted, burped, then stared up at me in confusion. Why am I chained up when you're dressed in that fucking monkey suit? I stood straight, admiring my reflection. Perfect. I have some bad news for you, old sport. I was never the victim, and you were never the client. If you had been, the cost would be much higher than $50. We've been watching you for some time, but we don't put anyone on the menu unless we're 100% sure of their guilt. So please accept my sincerest thanks for your confession. I turned to face him and frowned. Sometimes I do have to get my hands a little dirty. I flipped my expression into a smile. The things we do for a paycheck, am I right? He stared at me stupidly. What? You're not making any fucking sense. I patted his cheek. Don't worry. My friend Cappuccino will explain everything. I turned to walk out of the room before looking over my shoulder once more. Oh, and do play nice. He doesn't like mean people and won't hesitate to twist your arm a little.